Good evening. Welcome to the February 4th, 2015 Selectmen's meeting here in the village of South Deerfield for the town of Deerfield. We have minutes from previous meetings for review and approval. Oh, Mark, hey. Sorry, we just started.
Well, if you got my message, I originally wasn't going to be here.
Oh, I didn't.
Haley's in the hospital, so
Oh, no.
I was headed that way until I got a phone call from Bonnie that she'd handle it, so I had called, left a message for Casey that I wasn't going to be here, so. No, she's.
Is she okay?
Well, it's, I think it's asthma or something, I don't know, but.
It's scary.
Yep, but she's in good hands, and Bonnie's not concerned, so she's concerned, but she's not scared.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So.
Well, we just convened the meeting, and we're just on the July 28th meeting minutes.
Yeah, it's okay. You got a motion?
If you've had a chance to review them.
Is David?
I'm all set. You all set?
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we accept the minutes of the meeting of
The 28th.
28th of January 2015.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please make that unanimous. You know what? I really like the format. It looks really official.
I will let Mr. Official know.
Don't you think that format looks kind of really neat?
Yeah, but we killed about 18 trees to get to.
I know. Well,
It's easy to read.
it's
It's
really
very
easy to read.
That's very easy, but to the same token, it should be, you got to be a little conscious about trees.
Well, we're digitizing most of the minutes, so it's just our copy, I guess. But it is. I thought the format was pretty kind of cool.
Very nice. Easy to.
Oh no! It's
They
nice.
did double-sided, so.
Yeah. No, it was nice.
More trees.
It is
We
nice.
try to do that now. It's double-sided.
I think that's a good idea.
And we have for a while.
Public comments? Jeff, did you want to make a comment? Okay. Selectmen's comments?
Since you represent the whole public.
Well, thank you for coming. I have a recreational announcement. The Frozen Party is this Friday at 5:30. I know we announced it last week. It starts at 6 p.m. here at the town hall. It's I think it's kind of a cute thing. So if anybody is interested, it's on our website, and it's at the front desk. So, but it is cute if you have anybody that is in that age group. I also just want to make a comment that I know for a fact, because I was driving around, that Kevin spent at least 6 hours on Saturday handling drifts, and that was wonderful. But then and the highway department handled the snowstorm really well, and I just want to appreciate our highway guys for being really out there and working so hard to try to keep the roads safe for everybody. It was very nice. Yeah.
They worked very hard.
I think I just want to make sure it's in the public record that they're doing that. Is there anything else that anyone wants to say?
No, he did a wonderful job. I know some people are concerned about the road surfaces a little bit, but salt doesn't work when it's below 10 degrees.
Right. And if there's
Yeah,
no
it's
sun,
just-
they're not going to get
So
any
there's only so much you can do. So,
They're doing the best they can.
considering the amount of snow and the number of durations and the quick freeze that we got shortly after, I thought everything looked pretty good.
Good. That's good to hear.
Okay. And again, thanks to EMS, fire guys, the police, everybody made sure we were safe. But I just think the highway department really deserves an extra kudos. Board of Health comments, just the flu season is still here. Keep washing your hands. Just take care of yourself. Make sure you don't get too run down. Why don't we go to your town administrator's report, Casey?
Well, you want to make any comments on the hearings for the pipeline tomorrow?
Oh, yes. Actually, I went to a meeting today. The FERCog, Peggy Sloan from the FERCog. What did I do with all that stuff? Okay. Peggy Sloan of the FERCog did a presentation. If anyone is interested, you can go to the FERC web page, and it's docket. This project is docket number PF14-22. We will work with Cristobal so that we need to file as an intervener. In other words, intervener status that gives us the opportunity to comment. Peggy went over the permitting process, and as of today, the Kinder Morgan has 500,000 decatherms committed to domestic use, which when you convert that, it's about 23% of the 2.2 billion cubic feet a day that's estimated to go through the pipeline. So there isn't a lot of incentive for domestic use if the royalty thing doesn't go through or whatever, because it's you make more money when you sell it overseas. So the town had encouraged Steve Kulik, which he did file for the royalties if your property was taken by eminent domain. And Cristobal did make a filing against FERC in the name of the town of Deerfield that anybody shouldn't have to give up their land for eminent domain if this is for gases for export. It's based that his argument is based that it's unconstitutional for eminent domain to happen if it's for private profit and trade. So we'll see what happens with that too. The public hearing is tomorrow at GCC, 6 to 8. From what I understand, the format, it's not just a big meeting. It's going to be organized like a trade show. So they're going to have booths, Kinder Morgan booths set up, or people floating around 30 people. There's one in Winchester tonight, so 2 or 3 people were going to go. Tracy Rogers, a selectman from Northfield, and a couple other people that I don't remember who their names are, I'm sorry. They're going to go and go to that hearing so they get a handle on how this is supposed to work, because it sounds like it's kind of disorganized and there's no taping of responses or no taping of questions. So we worked on questions like, if the pipeline goes through, how do you, are they willing to bond to replace roads and culverts? Those kind of questions that we would have as towns. As private property owners, what is the buffer, if you're to your well, your private well? Those are the kind of questions that, they could do a before and after test, and how long, if you're in that 200-foot buffer, your well is, how many months would you require or would they be willing to test your well water, that kind of thing. So we worked on a list of questions that would be major concern for people. And that's about it. So hopefully it will be an interesting process, and I can report next week what happened at that meeting. Do you have anything to add?
No, I read the submittal, and a lot of the questions you have, you should read through, because they're answered in there, but it'll help you formulate your questions so that you're asking them pointed, because you asked the question the way you just presented it. That's already written into the FERC agreement for how many miles what's the distance are, all of those things from wells, any water infrastructure. The whole thing is spelled out by FERC. And if you're looking for more protection than that, you need to be specific, because they'll revert back to that document.
Okay.
So if you're looking, if you walk in and say, I read and understand what you put in place, but I don't think that's sufficient to cover the safety issue or their concerns, and tell them what you want,
Would
then
you
you'll
be able
get.
to come tomorrow?
There's another one going on with the NRC for
Oh,
another side, so I'm not sure which
oh,
way
okay.
I'm going.
All right.
And it depends on,
Well, we worked on questions, so
if you want to shoot me the questions, I'd be glad to take a look at them and
Okay.
help you with them.
I have them, actually, I have the rough draft here somewhere, so I'll dig it up, and I'll have you look at the
I
questions.
talked to
and see if
Peggy
there's-
at length when they first came out with the document, because I want to know what
Okay.
the format
Oh,
was
so
going to be.
You probably were instrumental in getting some of the questions formatted.
I don't know. I assumed that, because
Some of the stuff was pretty specific.
yeah, and I want it to be meaningful in the way the questions are being asked. I don't, the sad part about a lot of these FERC and federal documents is when you get in there, if you don't know what they say and you ask, they're not going to help you with that. They're going to revert you and tell you to go read the document, because it's spelled out there. And if they do that, then you've lost your opportunity to ask specific questions.
To me, this is going to be so confusing to have this kind of format.
No matter what you do in these arenas, it's going to be confusing, because people come to air their thought processes
rather than
listening to what's being think. So either one of them will work very well if you come prepared to ask legitimate questions that you want answers to, or even illegitimate questions you want your answers to. They always have the right to say no, but you'll get a direct answer if you ask a direct question. So it's
Okay. Well, we'll report back. Thank you for reminding me about that. I actually, this morning, John Pachorik and I went to MEMA down in Agawam, and we participated in the planning session for a terraced activity at the railroad yard. And so I think it will be a very good tabletop. There's one more planning session, March 31st, and then the actual tabletop is April 28th. And it will be somewhere here in Deerfield. We just don't have a location yet. But a huge amount of input from Homeland Security people and the FBI, but it's focused hopefully on us locally. So I'm actually really excited. So just put that in your calendar.
Can you email me that stuff, please?
Okay.
Yep, April 28th is the actual tabletop. It will be here in Deerfield, and it starts at 8:30, but we don't have a location yet. And the last planning session is March 31st, down in Agawam.
Okay.
John and I'll go again, but I thought it was there was a lot of give and take, because they're doing a tabletop in each county, and then this is going to be a simultaneous terrorist thing. So it's local response, then regional, and then federal. Sorry.
So it was.
I've been
April-
talking all day, so
I'm sorry. What April? The tabletop itself is April.
28
28th,
here
so-
in our county. I mean, it's our railroad yard. The other dates are different dates for the rest of the counties. Excuse
So
me.
the last planning meeting is March 28th.
March 31st.
March 31st.
So that was good. So Casey, do you want to go into your town administrator's report? I know we have Tim Newman's announcement or
Yes.
willingness to do something.
So Tim Newman, who is the director of Pecumtuck Valley Memorial Association and has been instrumental in helping the board gathering the information both for the Historic Commission and the Select Board, particularly about the Civil War Memorial up there, the statue. He has offered to begin a funding campaign to deal with the Civil War statues
Repair.
So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention because it is a national monument, as Carolyn has mentioned to me. It's a national monument, and I have had some conversations with John Nove, who's the chair of the Historical Commission. I believe they're meeting next week. He'll probably have a little more information for me then. But I think this would be a good way to really draw attention, and Tim's, in some ways, this is one of Tim's greatest skills.
Well, the town of Deerfield owns it,
Yes, the town of Deerfield does own
but it is a national monument. So Tim feels that we should be able to get, PVMA obviously can't fund the repairs, but they don't have money. But he's willing to lend PVMA's name and his energy to a national campaign to help us repair it and get it back in shape. So I think that's really wonderful. But we have to approve that,
Right.
obviously.
And I'll see John Nove tomorrow.
Is that okay with you?
To allow someone to
To
volunteer their time
and money.
and the money
efforts.
to orchestrate
Yes.
having repairs done to a facility, something that's owned by the town.
Yeah.
Let me think about this for a minute.
Well, I guess
I
my
know,
question is,
but we have to say that we agree that allow him to do that so that he can, form this campaign.
okay.
Why?
Why?
Because we own the statue.
Right, but he could do the campaign, say, I got this amount of money, and even though we agree to do it, he could come to us and say, we want to do this, and we can say, okay, can we see the credentials of the people doing it? We're authorizing him to collect money to
I
do a
know.
repair on, are we authorizing the repair?
No,
Are we
or
authorizing the fund?
facilitate, he's raising money to facilitate
Facilitate.
the repair.
Right, so,
He's not, we have to still authorize the repair, we still have to
Right.
go through that whole,
So-
which he'll probably help us with,
right,
because he was involved. It's just that he can't write a check for the repair.
I'll
Which-
go on the record as saying that anybody who wants to raise money for the town to do something, go ahead. Go-
I know, but formally, we just have to say, thank you very much, Tim. We really appreciate it, and we support your efforts. Okay. I
Well
think that's
said.
yeah.
Well said.
Okay. Good. I think that's a positive thing.
It is very much so, especially
very nice.
considering the situation with the statue itself.
I know. And no one
I will see John Nove tomorrow, so I'm going to ask him if he's got an update on
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I did attend yesterday. The town administrators for Conway, Deerfield, Sunderland, and Whately met, and that included Patty Kavanaugh and Superintendent Barrett from Union 38. We've had several sessions to date, and what we do is we sit down and discuss some of the issues facing all four towns and how they often relate to Frontier, but also just from an administrative perspective, how people are dealing with certain problems. So we had a long conversation about some of the budget issues facing the towns, not only as they relate to Frontier, but individually giving each other updates on what is the focus in certain towns on certain items, and how can we help each other? What do you know that I don't know? We've talked about sharing services before, but we each walked away with tasks that we're going to complete and come back and talk about. So we do have a next meeting next month. I'm sorry, the beginning of April, we have a meeting. So we're going to touch base, and we specifically wanted to do that so that we did it before the town meetings took place, because especially with Conway, Whately, and Sunderland, our town meeting, well, Conway is 3 weeks after ours, but Sunderland, Deerfield, and Whately are boom, 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 right after each other. So in terms of affecting anything that would be a vote for Frontier, it's helpful, and in some cases, we have South County EMS as well. So we did talk about those things. And I just wanted to let the board know that there are certain items we're following up on, such as the budgets for South County Senior Center. We didn't talk about South County EMS. We didn't talk about South County Senior Center because we all ran out of time. But it was a pretty extensive agenda, and it seems we're sharing information in a way that I think is helpful for all 4 towns. And getting information from the superintendent's office that is helpful as we're taking questions and answers back to you all. So I just wanted to let you know that that effort is going on, and we seem to be making some headway on certain things. So.
Thank you.
Much of what I've been doing the last couple days was budget prep. I met with the Finance Committee last night, and they're going to start reviewing some of the budgets that the board has provided them after the vote, or some of those votes last week. Capital also met yesterday, and I reported back to Finance Committee, because it was at the same time, so I couldn't attend Capital. Normally I would. I reported back to Finance Committee what I knew based on the last several meetings I had attended. So they're also going to start reviewing those capital budgets. Tom, I think will, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe next week Tom is going to bring them up to date, as he's the chair of Capital, on what they discussed yesterday. Mm-hmm. But Finance Committee has a couple of things that they're interested in working on, and I do expect they will be communicating that to the board relatively soon. So as you start going through the budgets tonight, I think what I can do is, if there's discussion on certain things, I can give you an overview of what they discussed as it relates to the budget you're looking at, and how that can be effective in what you make decisions on. So that's actually been the focus of the past several days. So my town administrator's report is relatively thin because the budgets are a big deal.
So we're going to meet next week, the 11th.
Yes.
And the 18th.
Yes.
But
and
not
the
the
25th.
Okay.
And
so
next-
you shifted, didn't we have, the railroad was shifted to March anyway.
They were shifted until
That was the
later.
only thing that we had on the 25th, right?
Right now, I did want to tell you, so one of the things, do you remember when Patty and Marty came in about the roof grant that they were
Yes.
pursuing? So the board has to take a vote, and I talked to Patty this morning, and she would like to have 10 minutes of your time next week to present the letter,
Sure.
and you all can take the vote. She'd like to be able to take that paperwork with her, because she is, in fact, they're right up against that deadline. So
That's fine. Just put her on first.
We asked for them to give us that letter as soon as they possibly could and not wait until the night of the meeting. Are they going to?
no, she's going to give us, in fact, I have I don't have her letter. School committee's going to be looking at that tonight. But I do have the language for the vote that you all have to take. She did say that she would provide me with the letter probably tomorrow or Friday. So I can email it to you.
I'd like to see it as soon as we can.
Okay.
So we know what it says.
Let me just write myself a note. So she's going to come in at 6:35. And then you have, I do have an item here. Lake Street Developers had asked to set up an item. I haven't confirmed it with them, but I will confirm that by Friday. You all had asked to meet with the Recreation Committee. I did forward that request to them. I have a tentative appointment, but I haven't received firm notice from Rob Ackerman whether they're going to attend. I think they probably will.
And what date is that?
That's the 11th, so you've got 6:35, 6:45, and 7:45.
Okay.
And that was really based on how long the Lake Street development conversation is. So
Are we, what kind of, how can we prepare for that? Do we have any background on their?
Lake
proposal?
Street development,
Yeah, can we at least
They did have a proposal that they sent us, but I actually,
I don't think I've seen it.
I think they sent it to us last fall. But that was my question. They haven't confirmed with me, so I'm not sure exactly. I'll ask them to send me some
Can you just
information.
send an update? Because, I mean, I know we looked at it. Do you vaguely remember, was there any questions you had on it? Was
The
there any?
proposals that they submitted last fall had nothing to do with what they're thinking about on Woolman Hill,
Oh, is that what they wanted to talk about?
I think.
Well, that Woman Hill isn't, I mean, I don't think that's, I think they were talking about landfill, because Woman Hill is a private entity. That's not.
Well, not up in that area off Keats Road.
So you think they're coming for Woman Hill?
The only thing we have up there is the National
It's between where the
Forest, isn't it?
Woolman Hill community is and True Corp. There's that acreage in there where they want to put their solar farm.
Right, but we don't have anything to do with that, though.
Just a letter of support is what they're looking for, I think.
Oh, okay. All right,
I think.
Let me send Zachary an email.
yeah.
Hmm.
Ask them, just to clarify, what they're asking us to do, because if it is Woman Hill, that's just I mean, that's a letter of support, but it's not anything to do with the town. I was interested in trying to sort out the landfill. I still don't understand we can't sort that out.
I did talk to Betty.
Betty Ann?
Beth. I get the two of them confused.
Beth Greenblatt?
I did talk to Beth,
Okay.
but because we have this situation where the grant money's disappeared, we're sort of at a standstill.
Yeah, but we can't hire her for, I mean, we've got a couple $1,000.
We have $3,000, and I told her that. She had gotten back to me because we had a conversation back and forth with DOR.
That's a couple hours.
And I hadn't had a chance to follow up with her. I didn't hear from them for a week, and then I did talk to them at the MMA conference. I talked to Jim Barry, and at this point, they don't know what's going to happen, if anything. Probably those funds will have dried up, but the governor's office hasn't come out and actually said that yet.
The housing guy that we talked to, for the 3 select boards for senior housing,
Mm-hmm.
he wants to set up an appointment with us. So would it be all right if we just set it up for one of our meetings, regular
Mhm.
meetings?
I'd set one up for the off-week meetings.
Okay. Or an off-weekly meeting, okay. If I get a date, is there any dates that are not good that you know of? I mean, I know you're going to be gone at the end of the month, but are you out of town? Or are you out of town anytime?
Not in February.
Okay.
I have no idea. My life just changed again, so.
Oh, okay. Well,
So, just make it happen is the best thing to just move
Okay.
forward.
he seems very interested to work with us and help us get a PATH grant, the 3
Okay.
towns to get a PATH grant. He said we have a very, very good chance of getting the PATH grant because we want to work together.
Well, I agree. I think we do. But
So-
back on the subject of the solar, I think that if there is no money there but seed money to get us started, I think that with these, we should be calculating what our savings would be to put that on our own dime. And I caution the fact that if we're going to approve solar in the town, what does it do to our credits? What do we have? What are we giving up?
That's why I'd like to talk to them.
So I think that Beth would be ideal to figure out what are we losing by authorizing or giving them a letter of support and have ours sitting in limbo. But I think it's extremely valuable that we really should be paying attention to our in-house and not have this thing linger, because it's going to kill us, and not wait for grant money, at least understand what the ramifications are.
So I guess I would make the motion that authorizing Casey to spend the remaining $3,000 at least.
Not unless we know what
To-
Beth's response to that question is.
Well-
Are we hurting ourselves or not? And
Well, we could authorize her to spend that money towards answering that question. Because I mean, the whole point of hiring her on is to get her professional help, so.
yeah, but if we spend it answering a question that we should be able to get a simple answer as to, yes, it makes sense or doesn't, then we blow $3,000 that we could use to actually towards
Well,
putting the system in
So are you
place.
suggesting that Casey call her and then she
And
just
say-
gives us a bill for whatever?
For whatever we do.
Okay,
Ask if,
okay,
if we're
okay,
going
I'm all right
to
with
consult her, just say, hey, what is, what is our position on this, and how should we moving forward if there is no grant money?
Okay, Casey,
So you want me to contact her?
yes, contact her and just let her bill us for whatever the conversation is, but
Like whatever. But yes, we
really,
did have a frank
want
conversation.
some, we want some specific answers because, and we're not moving ahead. We want to move ahead on this. And
Okay.
are we penalizing ourselves by supporting outside things? And and how do we move forward? And how do we best spend
How do we best spend that
our
money?
resources?
Peanuts that we
At a
have
minimum,
available.
I like the peanuts.
get a determination on net metering.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because see, this whole thing, right.
Because net metering doesn't cost the town anything, it's just, other than making a commitment that we're going to purchase power from a solar array.
Right.
So find out.
And in
what's
most
the
cases, it's a 20% reduction in our overall cost for electricity.
So what's the downside?
And it locks it in for a period of time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the things we really need to do is start getting some help as to how to make these decisions and not just let it linger, because we're not getting anywhere. So,
And we tell her we signed on for Hampshire.
Yes.
For just marginally more, but, so we're okay for a little bit, but we really want to sort this out so we're not penalizing ourselves.
No, I still don't understand why the elementary school's on a different system than, because we paid for
I
basically
thought
the
we were-
Siemens Energy
I know, I thought we were on this.
conservation studies and everything, right?
mhm,
Which, a big part of that was the elementary school.
right.
So why don't they get the benefit of the HCOG reduction?
Because they don't have that contract.
I don't know why they
The
didn't
co-
though.
But that's the
That's a
question.
business
That's the
decision that
question
they're
I have. Why
making.
are they signing a separate contract than us if it's the town?
It's a separate business decision. So I don't honestly know if that's the superintendent's office or the school, but
Mm-hmm.
they do their own, often they do their own procurements. I mean,
Yeah.
it's completely separate.
The thing is, getting ahead of ourselves. If they got into a contract and it's the same benefits that we're getting in a contract because they're doing bulk procurement of the process, then it's a moot point. But if we're paying twice as much or 20 or 30% more, then we should care. So all we really want to do is find out what we're paying for kilowatt over there and start working about making a good business decision as to where we get our electricity. Shouldn't make any difference why it is the way it is. It is, and what we really
I
need to
thought-
know
I
is
thought
what is
they
it
were-
costing us?
I thought they were with us.
I did too, but it doesn't matter. At this point, we're told, nobody really knows. So I think we really need to be figuring out, is it costing us more or less?
It sounded like it was costing us more. I mean, the contract that they had was more expensive than the FERCog.
Well, here again, the big question to me is,
I
a
mean,
number of these,
HCOG.
like the library, the school and stuff, have put a 30% increase in their electricity bill,
That's what I mean.
in their budgets. Is that really a justified increase?
Well,
Well, the library
yeah.
buys it through HCOG with us. I
That's
think.
our belief.
Yes.
But what we're saying is, and we're trying to all say the same thing, is all it matters is if it's not, what's it costing us, and do we still have the opportunity to link them in with us
Yeah.
if there's savings there? We're not going to change what it is without knowing
Mhm.
what it is. So let's find out what it is so we can work on it. Because obviously we don't have the answers.
Yep.
So.
Okay. I just printed something that I realize is on my list.
Excuse
But I'm
me.
having trouble with my email. So, we were trying to find something earlier, and now my email's all messed up. What I will do is I will put this on next week's agenda as soon as I find it. Hate that. Technical difficulties. We call that technical difficulties.
Maybe you could just follow up when you're doing the Beth Greenblatt stuff.
Yes.
Just follow up and make sure the library is signed on with the HCOG with us.
They are. What they did was the only thing that was a standout with that, so now we have all the town buildings, including the new garage. That was a standout, and that was kind of a struggle to get done because it was a new building, and it wasn't something, they were actually reporting differently because it came online via the contractor, we didn't initiate it, not through the town.
I know.
So, but what we have signed up with in terms of the electricity to date, because we had already worked with the COG for several years, they have the library, the senior center, this building. It's all compiled based on accounts that were set up several years ago when we first started using them. So the only one was that holdout. Yes, the library is on that. So they're realizing that same, they will be realizing that same savings. Now, I have to say, across the board, I am concerned, and this was actually part of the conversation the town administrators had. I looked at, in some ways it's sort of a microcosm, but there was quite a bit of discussion about streetlights last year during the budget season. So I looked at what we had spent to date on streetlights and doubled it. And I thought to myself, okay, we had very high rates up to a point when we signed that contract in November, and October, November. There were some higher charges because we weren't paying based on a fixed price, it was on a variable price. Now that we're paying on a fixed price, we should realize some savings, but electricity has gone up to some extent. So what I did, and you'll see it when you look at the budget, I looked at that 6-month time period and I doubled it. We had made a reduction last year in the streetlights budget. So I was just telling them, as an example, Carolyn had asked me whether the other town buildings were on the HCOG contract for electricity, and yes, they are. But in terms of taking this conversation sort of full circle in the budget, I looked at streetlights, and you'll see a copy of it. I looked at what we spent so far. I am mindful of the fact that the change from the variable rate to the fixed rate, we are realizing some savings, but this conversation was part of, or this element, electricity itself, was part of a larger conversation with the other town administrators, and they're seeing a real increase. So it made me concerned. So I went back and I looked, and I think what I had presented was, and if you remember last year, the board reduced
$11,000.
It was $11,000. So there's a slight increase, but I don't think it's going to be unmanageable. Now, the bigger context is, yes, we're on a fixed price structure with HCOG, but I know when I talk to Kevin, he's concerned about electricity costs, both in here and over at the garage. And I don't want us to underfund, and my recommendation is not to underfund it, but be mindful of what we spent so far.
Maybe one of the things that we can
this
find
is
out, because we found out through Mark's discussion down at the MMA conference that the light bulbs came on sale in February.
Mm-hmm. He mentioned
LED.
that last meeting.
Right. Well, sure enough, I went to Home Depot. They're $4.98.
Well, that's a different one.
What is it?
Oh, yeah, there's about 4 different things going on sale, but the $4.98 ones are the pancake-looking ones that go into regular light fixtures. The ones that are coming on sale are the ones that go up in here.
Okay.
They're LED for fluorescent replacements.
Well, we might want to look at buying our streetlights and putting LEDs in.
David and I already had that conversation with them.
I think we should really
We have,
consider it.
Well, we're going to give Kevin a contact of someone who will come out and set up a street light besides our street lights, so you can see the lumen change. And then we'll put a sign up that says this is how much we can save. This is how much it's going to cost us to replace them, because we're going to pay for it out of pocket or whatever grant we can get. But that has to be done at a level where people understand what they're getting, because we're going to have to go to annual town meeting to talk about those type of.
Well, I think
And
we
that
should pursue
should be a
that.
debt exclusion because of the fact that it's
Gonna be
both,
major.
it's going to be economic and I don't know who brought the subject up, that basically, since we just changed our streetlights, might have been David, that Mass Electric isn't interested in doing it. However, once you hit the newspaper with them coming out and taking pictures of us putting LED streetlights up, and somebody happens to talk about the fact that they're not willing to change them because we just downgraded from sodium vapor to whatever, they may be able to help us in some arenas, maybe providing us with a bucket truck or providing us with things or something to help us make it through the process. So
Yep.
if we're serious about doing it, I'm finding the electric companies are very willing to help. They just don't want to have to put something out there that they have to live to without somebody else living up to their commitment in the process. So I think that it's a very worthwhile thought process, and David did a great job of getting us started on that.
I appreciate that, because I think it makes
So
sense.
what I'll do is I'll put a note in here to check on that. And it's for those, right? The one that we talked about at MMA.
They're all of them.
Okay.
If you see the ones that,
All of them are. there's
all of these are
different ones on
fluorescent,
sale.
but what they're doing now is if you have a pocket light, a recessed lighting
Oh,
can,
yeah, okay.
you can buy those for $5 and you get the whole can and everything. All you do is pull it out of the hole
That's what you were
and you
describing.
put the two wires on it and you're done. So you don't have to break into the ceiling, you don't have to get into any airborne issues or hazardous things. You just have an electrician come in, take it down, they take the wires off, put the wires back on, and it sticks right back up in the hole, and it's $5. Which, the ones I've been looking at, they're rated for lasting for 22 years, and they will save over those bulbs, I think it's 1/6 of the electricity.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a 10%
Huge.
usage fee or
Mhm.
15% huge savings. So those, and these weren't around when, even as, when Siemens did theirs, they weren't available and weren't around. The tubes that are in these things now, you pay $5 or $6 for the fluorescent tubes. They're $18 for the replacement tube.
Mhm.
So it's a big cost. If you look at how many four are up here.
We do.
Yeah.
We have quite a
You've
few.
got them all over the place to buy them that way, but to buy 4 or 5 cases of them and replace any that burn out, because the replacement ones, here's our educational program for today, can go directly in the slot, and if the ballast burns out, you cut the ballast out and direct wire it in place. So you don't even have to replace the ballast. So they're pretty, and they work really good in cold for the shops that has a chance of freezing, or somebody has to go outside and they have these things in atriums or whatever. They start cold start and they're just as bright as if they were. So for people
There
who have
is
to
that.
work in,
Yeah. There is that warm-up time.
yeah, and it does away with all that. So and I would suspect that in the next year or so that they'll come down in price when the factories get up full speed and manufacture them. Because to get them for $5 when it costs us that for the squirrely little fluorescent bulbs we used to get in there. And the telltale thing is you can buy those squirrely bulbs for $8 for $1 now in certain places because they can't sell them.
How come they can't sell them?
Because
Because
they've
people's moved on.
moved on to the,
Oh, okay.
So they were-
That
they-
makes sense.
It's old
They went full-
technology now.
they went up and built, they ramped up and built these things, and there are gazillions of,
Because those are not my favorite.
no, they're not mine either. And that's, the thing is, people are going to move away them fairly quickly.
Yeah, because they're ugly.
And technically, you're not supposed to throw those in the rubbish because they have mercury in them.
Yes, they do.
Where these are, the LEDs are non-toxic. You can throw them in the dump. Matter of fact, they have a recycling bin where you throw them in the recycling bin. It goes through, like tin cans, they trash it, they shred them up and they recycle them and reuse them without having to do any remediation of anything. That's what we were told.
Well, that was really worthwhile information to get a hold of.
Would you excuse me just a moment?
Yep.
Okay. And I did want to tell you, let me get back to the seat so people can hear me. I did want to tell you, I'm going to be having a department head meeting again this end of this week, just to bring people up to date on some of the conversations that you all have had in terms of the budgets and some of the conversation from last night with the Finance Committee. And there's a couple of other things that have come up between departments that I just want to make sure everybody's aware of. So that communication piece of it, we're really trying to make an effort to do that. I was going to ask you if you want to look at some of these budgets now.
Yeah, we can.
Are we going to, are these other things in our books, things we're supposed to deal with?
Well, there's
We're gonna
one
go
thing
into
that didn't make it
executive
into your
session, but not
book, and that
come
was
back
what I
out.
was.
No, these are not executive session things. These are,
Those are for your edification. There is one thing that didn't make it into your book, and I just realized that, so that's what I printed.
this is, this request to go on to FCAT?
Yes. So I put it in your mail. I didn't know if you wanted to read it first. Father Calvo sent that in. If you'd like to discuss it now, he's interested in being appointed to
Does it fall in
FCAT.
the category of other things too late to come in?
Yeah, although I originally had just put it in for a mail item, but since you're looking through it, if you'd like me to add it as a specific item next week, I can do that and give you time to read it.
No, I think that,
I'd be happy to do it.
yeah.
Is that's, you know,
We put it out at last meeting that I would love to have somebody working on the board of directors for the FCAT and for the town of Deerfield. Because I don't have time to make the meetings as much as I would like to. And he's responding to that, and if that's the only response, and as long as the board feels that this is adequate time for the request for a response, I would recommend that we deal with it now.
I would be very supportive of Father Randy.
he seems very interested, and it was
Yeah.
very gracious of him
Yep.
to offer.
So I think it's wonderful. I'm
So,
excited.
before he changes his mind, I would like to make a motion to appoint Father Randy to the FCAT Board of Directors in the capacity of the town of Defield's spot.
Second
Selectmen.
that.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please make that unanimous and tell Father Randy that we're thrilled that he's volunteered. I think
Well-
he'll be a very good addition.
The one thing I don't know, and maybe they can tell me from the FCAT Board, the control booth, is if Deerfield has a spot open other than mine.
No, it's actually yours. So, and that's the
great.
point.
I just.
I know you're busy,
We
Mark.
went a long time with not having 3 people on the board, so it would be very good for us to.
Okay.
to
Well, thank you. I
fill
I
that.
think Father Calvo will be happy, and I also think the group itself.
Yeah, if somebody's coming to meetings, that's, the more brain trust you can put in there, the better off you're gonna be.
Okay. We will let Father Calvo know.
Did we pass along this notification for the meeting from the Cable Commission to FCAT?
You know, I didn't ask Doug if we had scanned it. I know we put it in your mail just to add, it came in. If
Would you-
you would like me to
Announce it.
do that, I can
Just make
ask
sure
him
that
to
you
do
pass it along, make sure that Doug gets it out. I'm sure he did, but just in case it falls through the cracks. And make sure we put it on for an announcement next week, but I have no other comments on it.
Maybe Doug could just put together a little, like, I don't want to say welcome notebook, but some little notebook from background information for Father Randy.
He probably needs, let me talk to Doug, because of Doug's involvement with FCAT, I think he might have a better idea of what that should include.
Right.
So let me
I think
talk
that
to
would
him
be
and ask him what he would put
very
together.
helpful for Father Randy.
Certainly would we give him a copy of the franchise agreement, so that he understands the background. He can read through the background.
How about,
Maybe even better if he hears it from the committee too.
I was just going to say, maybe Doug can brief him a little bit, and then he can just go to a committee meeting. But it would be helpful if Doug had some kind of interaction with him.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Doug
Thank
is
you.
uniquely qualified to do that.
Yep.
So, all right, so I have a note to have Doug give him a packet and send out the hearing information.
Right. Just so he feels like he's a little up to speed. That would be very nice, because he'll be a wonderful volunteer.
He's always quite friendly when he comes in.
Yeah.
And he makes an effort to get the information. So.
I think he's great. Okay.
So I do have to say, this didn't get printed. I apologize. It's on my list. We did receive a resignation from Michelle Duguay. So I bring it to your attention as in terms of accepting the resignation. And in response to that resignation, Chief Pachurik has forwarded 2 appointments as a result. So.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the resignation of the
Administrative assistant.
administrative assistant for the town, for the police department.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion?
Nope.
Just on the date, on the letter, she's got January 2nd.
Oh, maybe she made it. Well, that's when he got it. So.
Got it
He
on
got it.
February 2nd, he just got it.
Oh, okay.
So,
You know, that's what Barb meant. Okay.
so I think we
I'll ask
should
him.
Ask for
get
the
that
corrected.
get it pen and ink changed and double initialed with verification of what has to happen, just to make sure it clears it.
Yep, so it's effective February 2nd.
And that, yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was February 2nd.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's when that's what I meant. I think that's when he received it was February 2nd.
Yeah.
So he had 2 appointments as well. And if you'd like me to hold that until next week, he did ask me if I could get it on as soon as I could, but
Did you do a research of the bylaws to determine whether we can do this?
yes,
And we're
You
fully
can.
authorized to do this
yes,
without the personnel
yes.
board being involved?
Yes.
Even at the rate grade?
You don't have a functional personnel board and he needs the help, so he's going to need that sort of help. So I think,
At least temporary
You are
or
the-
permanent?
No. This
No.
is
Temporary.
this is temporary.
Yeah, but it doesn't say temporary, so.
It is temporary.
That's what the email said, temporary.
Yes,
but
yes.
This letter does not say temporary.
Do you want me to take it in
Well, I'm just,
and say something to
No.
Doug? I can't. I mean,
No,
you
that's
guys
just-
can wait. And I just wanted you to have the information.
I don't think he can wait, because
He does need that. He will need the
his
help.
stuff is
but
building up. So I make a
In terms of
motion
the
that
appointment.
we appoint Joanne Carney and Patricia Patterson as temporary administrative assistants to the police department at step 5, grade level 3.
I'll second that.
The only comment I'd have is that I have a problem with the step requirements, and I would rather just have the hourly rate
Oh, sure, that's fine.
and just not pick a,
we would reference the hourly rate in the
Okay.
letter. We'll reference
The
that.
hourly rate
leave the
of
rest of it off.
$20.03.
I don't know why we just don't say $20. The 3 cents is, but
All right. So
I
let me
have
make a note.
other issues that we'll
And-
discuss at other points.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, did you want to look at your budgets?
Yeah. What one do you want to take up?
So the first one I looked at in the 100 series, which is general government.
I'll give you that back.
Is that all your stuff, or is that my stuff?
That's yours.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So the other thing you'll find is I did give you the information on
I think we're going to need a bigger
capital
table.
and there's just so much paper. So there's capital information as well as the most recent expense report for your budget books.
You never say paper when you have budget problems.
You don't, and I cringe every time I walk toward the copier or ask Doug to walk toward the copier, or Priscilla, or, Pat, whoever walks toward the copier, because I need them to copy something.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it does take incarnations, so to speak. And I should say that the finance, Skip brought in draft number 2 of the elementary school's budget.
Yep.
So you should have that. And it should be, I do have a copy if you need me to give you another copy, but we had made copies of it, so.
Well,
Specifically.
Well, they gave us the second draft.
They did, that's the thing. You were at the meeting last week, I wasn't there,
Yeah,
so I
okay.
made sure that we had copies.
I don't think we need to spend time on the elementary school budget draft, the second draft. Except,
I just wanted to draw your attention
yeah.
to it since it was there.
I guess my only concern is they have always set aside the school choice money for, from the current year and put it aside. And this, to meet their savings, they are dipping into that for the first time. Just like we are covering our operational budget with free cash, they're just going into their school choice money
You had
ahead
said
of
that,
time.
that you were
Yeah.
concerned about.
I was kind of concerned about that.
The amount of money that they're dipping in doesn't alarm me as much as the fact that they're spending a negative budget in anticipation of using that money, which their budget should be negative budget. It shouldn't be balanced on money that they haven't.
They have it, but they always save that year.
Again,
ahead.
we're back to the conversation that we've had in the past. Their budget says negative, first year they did it by $12,000. And it says $12,000, and then it says its budget is 2.5% or whatever the number is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not 2.5% because it's increased by that money, that $12,000 or whatever it is out of there, and it's the money that we're representing to the townspeople is not reflective of what is the budget. And we can't build the discussion on stuff that's false. And if the budget was, it's probably pennies off when they're talking about that kind of money, but as they slowly ramp this up, because the first year it was 11, now it's 17,000, then it goes to 25,000, then it goes to 50 or 60,000, then it's a big jump in the percentages. It's their money, and however they want to do it, but it seems almost fraudulent to say that our budget is only off by this amount, but, by the way, we took money from next year and we're applying it to this year, which isn't the way we should be doing budgets. We should be doing them and representing them the same across the board. So, and unfortunately, Jeff's not here to cheer me on that.
No, Jeff's at the school committee meeting. So I have to say that was something that the administrators discussed with Marty and Patty, and from their perspective, they're concerned about the quality of education based on the challenges that the schools have. And Marty is best able to provide that information. I certainly don't want to put words in her mouth or anything. I think those are questions you can ask her if and when you ask them, when you want them to present budget information to you. I believe we did that last year.
Well, we'll go to the open. I mean, they have a public hearing, too.
Yes, they will have a public hearing. So I just, these are things that we are discussing as a group to sort of figure out the administration's stance on it in a way that we can have a frank conversation and bring that back to the table. So I just share that from that perspective. If you want to look at the first budget I was working on, from our perspective, was the selectmen's expense. Now, in my conversations with Capital Improvement Planning Committee, I had submitted the request for hardware, computer hardware and software to them several weeks ago. And after some discussion, the amount is $2,500. After some discussion, they gave it back to me and said it should be funded they thought it should be funded as an expense item. So I did add that to the selectmen's budget. What I had done was gone through the expense items as they're detailed, and that's budget number 001-122-5400. It should be in the 100 section of your budget book.
132?
122-5400. Now, you also have a copy in the packet that we gave you, because that was something that we provided to.
You know what, I have, I go to the Oliver Smith Conservation Commission, Board of Appeals, Zoning Board of Appeals, Town Office Management, is that it? It's 192-5400?
That's town office, it should be town office expense.
I don't have,
Town office building expense.
it just says Town Office Building Maintenance.
So did you put your, So.
That's as bad as me going.
Well, that's the thing, I just realized, that was me. That's not cool.
Oh, maybe that's where the agenda
So
is.
that's your packet.
Okay.
I
My
might
ag-
have looked at your agenda, because I was looking at something.
Oh, no, that's
And that
fine.
was draft two. That was OPEB, summary of benefits OPEB information.
Okay.
Because that was a part of the conversation with Finance Committee last night.
Okay.
So, in that first section of draft budgets that that are sitting right there, you'll find that selectmen's expense.
I don't have that one.
Oh,
Is it multiple copies of it?
You should have had a copy of that as well. We put all those packets on there.
Mine started with the assessors. I didn't have the
So
select-
these should be in order.
Yeah, the selectmen's not here.
I know I made a copy of it.
here, we can share.
That's why I had the agenda,
He-
nobody else did.
He can have mine. I got the one draft, just budget drafted and one not draft, so.
See? There you go. I did make a
have a
copy
draft.
somewhere.
Not a final budget request.
Yes.
Okay, that's what mine says.
But it's the same numbers.
So that is, the majority of that increase is that piece of it. I did adjust some of the numbers based on what we've expended, because if you look through that, you have those subcodes. They include the emergency planning amount, miscellaneous books and forms that the office needs, the town administrator's expense, meetings, training, postage. So what I did was I looked through and I saw what we had spent to date and made a determination that there were certain things that maybe could be adjusted internally, but then you had that element of $2,500. So I put it in to have a discussion with you as a board, and you can make a determination as to what you want to see for that or not see for that. Because it shows an increase in the budget because you take it from a capital item into a regular line item expense.
What is the software for?
It's every year or every other year, we have a rotating purchase for computers. So some of the oldest systems were replaced first. We did replace, the last system that we replaced was the system in the assessor's office, because it was at a point where Karen couldn't get to her data because it was so old and it was crashing. So we replaced her computer. I do have a separate capital request for a server that covers, that's outside of that. But this was hardware and software that we have to buy on a regular basis, or if we have to upgrade something in order to function, we would separate out those purchases over a period of time.
So this was a fully, it was a rotating cost that was out there.
It was, and they
Put in
didn't think
place,
it
and we
was,
just moved it. I agree with him. I think it should be in our budget.
So
And respectfully so.
I put it in the selectmen's budget, but because we typically do those purchases. Our office handles those purchases.
But it's for the whole, everybody gets to use it, other
Well,
than
we
the police
basically-
department, the highway department, and the
Police
ambulance.
department, they do their own, but
Right.
because they have their own requirements. Majority of departments in here
Okay.
is really what we
So it'd be
handle.
the best place to keep it.
That was my estimation, but you tell me. If you think that should be different. That's a lot of information, Mark.
Pass the weight test. I thought there was a whole bunch of other stuff here. I'm going, oh, we've got a lot of stuff to review.
No, that's the capital packet, and it is, some of it's very,
I saw that last week,
it's this
so.
thick, so.
It was
I'm
a
not going to
shock.
digest it
So that was
today,
the
so.
first budget, was the selectmen's expense budget.
I'm fine with that. Do you want to, do you guys feel comfortable approving this?
Tentative approval.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we tentatively approve this.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
So tentatively approve the selectmen's expense
Yeah,
budget.
I mean,
Yeah.
we got to go back through everything, but
Yeah,
It
the
seems
reason I
like
say
we-
tentative, it's good shape, but if we have to cut somewhere, I'd rather just have everybody on the same playing field. It looks good. If we can make it fly, we will. If not, we're gonna have to do something
Well,
somewhere
and that's the
down
thing,
road.
I had done there were a couple things that were reduced, but when you add that $2,500, there's an expense increase there, obviously.
Right.
So, the
But
next.
moving around doesn't qualify as getting it out of the overall budget.
Well, it's out of the capital budget, it makes it a line item, so you see it, and that was what capital had said, we don't think this is a capital item, it should be a line item, so the best place after thinking about it seemed like the expense budget.
Yep.
But as you go further into the budgets and review of the budgets, I think you're gonna face that question is whether we can keep some of those items. We had some reductions in postage. There was a minor reduction in, I think it was books. So, but it didn't amount to much, especially when you added that 2,500 in.
don't even worry about it.
tried.
So we're on the assessor's clerk
The
salary?
assessors, I think you had,
We'd already approved, I
I
thought.
think that was approved, yes.
Okay. Legal expense?
Legal expense was the next one I tackled.
Can we get the check-off sheet that we used to get, the overall budget on a separate approval sheet so we can check off
The reports.
Well, what we used to do is, we'd have a list of all of the items.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got done, we would check that we tentatively approved it on the side, so when we went down the list, we
Okay.
didn't go, gee, did we already do that one, or didn't we do that one? It's already on a master's list of the,
Okay, because I have been working on that.
and all it was just a summary of all the budget items. It was just, we had it, every one of us had it on our table, so that basically, when we did one, when we tentatively approved it, we checked it
Weekly
off, so
report.
that basically we weren't asking, did we do that one last week, or did we do it 2
Okay.
weeks ago?
And I
A
think
scorecard.
last year we had the budget report that was produced pretty much every week. I do have to say that Skip, the Finance Committee Chair, has asked to change that report. I asked him if I could see he has a different Excel sheet that he wants to use. So I had asked him several weeks ago if he would forward that to me. He's coming in tomorrow and we're going to review that. I am hesitant because I understand how the old report works, and this could possibly be top-heavy in information, so I'm going to go through it with him.
I would appreciate if you would talk to Barbara and them and forward it to us as a request for change in venue, because it changes what all of us see and do.
Exactly.
And just for him to change it because he likes it in a different format doesn't help the rest of us get to where we need to be. So I would request respectfully that the board have the final look at, or you give us a recommendation as to what you think it should be, but not change it until we get Barbara's and everybody's buy-in.
Okay.
Because I think that could be jumping off the bridge a little too early.
That will in fact give me the opportunity to spend a little more time with it. So I'll sit down with him tomorrow, and then I'll make sure that Brenda and Barb see it, although I don't expect to have it. Perhaps we could have their input on it by next week, but it may not be something that you all have I can maybe report it.
Just work collaboratively.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I'm going to ask them when everybody's sort of back in the office, because there's a bunch of training sessions going on right now, to have a financial team meeting. And I've already put the word out. I just haven't written the email. So, all right. So you want to have final approval on that report?
Well,
We just want to look at it.
Oh, yeah.
we want to understand what it is what we're buying into. We'd like to at least have some say in it.
Well, it's a report, like Mark said, it's a report that everybody sees every week. It's updated every week. And that was one of my concerns about it, is the old report isn't necessarily the best thing, but you don't have to look at every single number. I'm concerned that the report that Skip's developed could possibly mean more in time, just managing the report itself. That was my concern. But until I sit down with him, I won't know for sure. So I will report back to you
Okay.
next week.
Thank you. Legal looks fine to me.
Okay, so what I did with legal, this
So you
microphone
moved
needs
some
to
numbers
follow me.
around.
I did move some numbers around, but what I did was I went through each expenditure that I had in the expense report. And if you look, let me show you where that is. This is your expense report to date.
I know you want, I kind of feel like we need to keep shooting for that 20,000.
I know.
And then
I-
if we
I
have
figured you would
issues,
say that.
if we have issues, we ask for transfers. But to just, we don't have money to just sit in there because we think we're going to have to spend it.
Well,
And also, this keeps us looking at the budget all the time, or thinking of the budget all the time, because we have just 20,000. I know we don't always keep, things are beyond our control, and we have to use the money. So when we do it, we just ask for a transfer.
and I thought that might be the
Yeah.
opinion of the board on it. What I wanted to present was the
Trend.
trend and the transfers. But that's unanticipated issues. We didn't know that these things were going to come up. I know the Finance Committee had a discussion last year, and the board was there for that because you all participated as to funding it at a higher level, because traditionally there have been higher transfers. My concern about transfers, and I just bring this to you from an administrative perspective, is the amount of money that's in the reserve fund is a finite amount. If there is a problem in another account that's high, then that could be a detriment. That's all
I know it's a risk,
so.
but
But what you're seeing in the 20,500, I went through each one of the items that are listed and saw what we were expending. And the expenditures at this point in some of these items are higher than they're actually budgeted.
the only reason I would think about increasing is because Mark had brought up that, we want to hire Beth Greenblatt. And
that would be in consultant.
Wouldn't be under legal.
It's not under legal. It's under.
she's a lawyer, isn't she?
That's her focus is not
So you can't
town
consider her
council.
legal.
It would have to be in contracted
So,
services.
so we have to, is she subject to procurement? Or, because legal isn't subject to procurement.
Legal isn't subject to procurement. It really depends on what it
Is
is
she
you're doing.
subject to compare,
I think it depends on
You know
what
what
you're
I'm
looking
saying.
for. How much you expect to spend on any given activity.
okay.
So,
So, I mean, can we just call her up and say we want you to work with her, or do we have to go through an RFP?
Depends on the amount
it
of money.
depends on the amount of money. So it depends on what you're looking at. For instance, if we did a solar RFP for landfill,
Yes.
where
we'd
she
have-
was part of that, she would have to give me a
Okay.
quote, and then
But
I
if-
can make that
But if you
determination.
just called her up and asked for advice on the solar landfill issue.
Well, we know we only have a certain amount of money in that
Okay.
right now, so
So
And
you
that's
wouldn't
below
have
the
to- You
threshold.
wouldn't have to put that, okay, it is.
right
below-
now it's
okay.
below the threshold.
All right.
She really would need
So
to
she
give
would
me a
give us-
quote.
She would be able to give us an answer for that kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right.
And she's willing to do that too, so.
I know, she's really.
Yeah, she is. She's very nice.
And
She's
and she
very
gets
helpful.
that we don't have any money, so,
So
all right.
what
never
I did
mind
was I
then.
tried to make adjustments within that budget to match better what we've been expending. And the assessor's piece of it, because of some issues that had gone before the appellate court, or the appellate tax board.
Who represents us when they go to the assessors go to the court? Is it?
It's actually Blattman, Bobrowski, and Mead.
Okay.
It's Adam Costa who works with
Okay,
Lisa.
I know.
He
I just want to make
specializes in
sure
that.
that we were getting, good
He
representation.
knows his stuff.
I know he does. Okay, it's
And
fine.
just because I've experienced it, they had a couple of issues that I spent some time working with John on. So
Well, Mark Bobrowski wrote the land use.
I know.
I know.
I know.
I mean, that's how
He's-
we got him. And we were one of the first clients.
So the other thing was when I was
Planning board.
looking at, I know, I remember.
80s. In the
I remember
80s.
that.
I know. In 1983, I think, or something. I don't know. Anyway, we've had him for a while. Okay.
Yeah, so if you wanted to keep it level funded, you certainly can do that. What I would like to do is adjust what that level funding looks like and apportion it into the accounts that I think we're spending a little more, because these are subcategories. And some of these categories we do have to pay attention to because it helps me understand where the legal money is really going. And to Carolyn's point, it gives us the tools to keep on top of that budget.
I hate to do this to you because I hate it when people do it to me. If I understand you correctly, you've added the $500 you think is important where we are today, and you've reapportioned the money, and what we have in front of us is the budget that represents what your best guess is for what we need for the future.
Based
Based
on
on-
the fact that I know we're in a budget crunch, and I know there are outstanding issues for some of these cost
Just
codes
nod
that I
your head
know
yes.
we're going to
Just nod
see.
your head yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
Mark. Yes, Mark. Okay, I'll just nod.
No, you see what I mean? It's,
I tried to give you a more accurate picture.
well, I'm reading it, and then you tell me things that I'm not sure are the same thing that I'm reading.
Okay,
So if
less
you're,
is more.
if you're changing what is here, then I want to hear it, but if you're reinforcing what's here, then I'm good to go.
The suggestion that Carolyn alluded to is actually in the explanation, and that was to fund it at 30,000,
Right.
based on expenses over the past several years. So that's the only explanation that changes anything in that budget.
Well, other than the reapportionments and stuff.
I make a motion we approve this as presented, tentatively approve it.
You can approve that one. It's all fake.
I know.
It doesn't matter.
He
It's all.
thinks it's fake.
It's all fake.
Well, my question
well,
is do you
can't-
want to approve it at level funding?
Yes, level funding. Or, well.
Level services, or required
20
services. You-
20,000.
You put it 20,500.
I put it at 25, but,
You put it at 25.
20,500. I know, I do that by accident. My brain sort of
Well, you were just trying to
abbreviates.
All right.
I have no problem with that being approved because it's all fictitious at this point.
It's really the bottom line. It's
funny money.
$500 more.
Do we anticipate any legal expense with getting the final occupancy for the town garage?
There is,
Or is
There's-
that in
I
that-
haven't,
or it's
we
in
haven't
that budget?
spent
In
a
that-
lot of money right now. Some of that was apportioned in the budget, the construction budget itself.
Okay.
But
I-
Kevin spends more time with that budget, so I honestly can't tell you what's in there.
Well, just, I guess it's a good point, once we check into it, but I don't,
We haven't spent
We're
much money
saying,
now.
saying a lot yet, but it looks like they understand that there was a mistake. They understand that it has to get fixed. And it's just, they have to sort out who's going to pay for it. But
Okay.
they understand it's not us,
Okay.
because it wasn't,
there's two different subjects.
Well, I just want to make
His
sure.
subject is, if they don't agree and we go to some sort of arbitration
Wow.
over the process, is there money available to
they
us
have to
handle?
agree. They have to agree to, there is an agreement that there was a mistake in the design, engineering design of the drainage. But they're kind of fighting out who is going to pay for it. They're not expecting us to pay for it, but
Whether it's the architect or the contractor.
the architect and the
Or the GC.
engineering,
Then we
and
should be good.
we should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Mark said, the bottom line is what you're voting at this point. The apportionment really just gives you a guide.
I mean, we have a
These
good
are cost
case
codes that we
where they
use.
admitted
Yeah,
they did it.
I just knew that was something that was hanging out there, and I
That's a
didn't know
very good
where we
question.
were with it, so. Okay.
Hopefully it'll get fixed, but, did someone second this?
It's been approved and seconded and everything's done.
Okay, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, just in case. I missed that, obviously.
I'm not sure, but I just wanted to go, keep moving forward.
Keep moving.
All right.
This is,
Just
Veterans-
nod, Casey, and keep moving.
Veterans District Assessment,
The Veterans District Assessment is based on the assessment that we've been given for,
FY16.
yes.
does this,
I move that we approve,
It's-
tentatively
it's
approve the
increments.
veterans.
and I second that. Do we know, this includes, this is grant subsidized. How long does that grant go to? For another year or two?
I don't have confirmation that they got it. They were planning on trying to get it. But if it was a CIC grant, they may not have gotten it.
Okay, well, I don't know if it was a CIC.
They'll have to come back to us with another proposal,
So-
because I have to
okay.
split it up, so this is what it stands right now, and I
This is
just
what it
recommend we
stands
take it.
Okay,
It's not a huge increase, but this is also an
all
assessment.
those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I don't have a problem with it. I just was wondering once, if it was a grant subsidized, when the grant runs out, what it was truly going to cost us. There was some speculation on that. I don't know if you were
When they
in
first
that.
presented it, they had numbers that were based on.
I think this is, it is where it is at this point, and.
Well, we don't
can't-
have much choice. It's the
Right,
assessment.
it's there, it's our assessment,
It's
so
it's
they have
our
to come back with a
assessment.
different assessment if we
I
want
know,
to.
but I just, curiosity. Okay. Town building maintenance. I thought we did this one.
We did, you have a
Put it on
hold
hold.
on it?
Oh, okay.
Where is that?
It's 192, 400, so it's a little further in.
190, what happened to all these other ones? 92,
Some of them I
54.
don't have.
You don't have the Conservation
You know what, this
Commission?
is- I guess it is on
Conservation
hold.
Commission, you approved.
Okay. So
duplicate.
zoning
I
board of
have
appeal we
dates
did.
online. What I haven't done is reprinted everything that you approved. Mindful of paper, but if I can give you a list of, the
It should be
list of
just
the
a
ones
bit,
that
a
you
lift would
approved,
be
you'll-
fine, and then don't worry about, just put a little block on the side that says approved, and what we used to do is write down the
The date.
date that it
The
was
date.
approved.
Yes.
So,
This was all built into our old report, so.
It was on hold for, did we resolve?
It was on hold. Hold on. Let's flip that page. He had increased electricity. And I think you all had a question about,
Well, the lecture, we weren't sure if it was a programmatic increase or a rate increase, because the rate increase shouldn't be that high.
I think one of the things he did was what I did with streetlights, which was look at what was expended
Okay.
and double it, and then try, if you're over, you try to adjust for what you think it's going to be. Now, I do have a question for the board. I had asked the Finance Committee this yesterday. As you're going through the budgets, and this is one of the reasons I'm taking notes, because I had asked, you guys had another question for him that I asked. Would it be useful to cut down on to make things more efficient in terms of discussing the budgets with the department heads. Would it be useful to come up with a set of questions that you might have for each one of these budgets? I do have notes for many of them, but for this one, I noticed I had nothing written down, and I knew it was a hold. So
Well,
I had asked the finance committee if they'd like to do this for efficiency's sake, using the narrative. Now, Kevin and I did talk today. He doesn't have a narrative done, and I offered to have Doug or I help him with it, because not that he can't do it, but he's been so busy with snow. So he and I are going to work on that, and that will help suss out some of the things you're looking
well,
at.
I think it's very important especially for the highway department this time of year, that we just funnel the questions through you. And I would hope that the finance committee is sensitive enough to do that as well.
If we do this correctly, we should have the budgets done by this period of time.
Oh, no,
So
I
we
know.
shouldn't be in this dilemma next year, but basically, we got to help them out now because it is where it is. I guess the two questions I see on these was, we talked about the electricity, but didn't somebody ask, does this apply to all the buildings, or is this just the town office? That was one of the questions that was asked that nobody
That's
really
just
gave
the
a good
town
answer.
office. And
Where do all the other buildings fall into the realm? Because,
it's the town office and the town clock. Yes.
okay, but
The
who
other
takes
buildings
care-
are
Guys are glazing over
the
already.
other buildings, their electric costs are in their budgets. So
No, I mean,
each,
this is the maintenance. The electric is in their budgets where you can see it, but do they put repairs in their budgets? Do they put miscellaneous supplies in everybody's budget? Is there ground maintenance in everybody's budget? So we've got this thing kind of misrepresenting what it really is, because it's the town offices, grounds, and buildings that are not covered in other line items. I
well,
think.
that's,
Because we
Like
cover
custodial service, is a custodial service
just for here?
yes. For
just
this
for this
building and the
building?
police
Okay.
department.
How about miscellaneous repairs? Kevin put in,
Miscellaneous repairs covers things that he has to do in here.
And-
And some of it, honestly, some of it, we do pay for some of the stuff that goes on in the senior center. If there's little things that he's buying, I mean,
Yeah, so the thing is, as we start getting these budgets down to be representative, right now, there aren't going to be much to fix at the highway garage, but sooner or later, we're going to have to fix something there, and there needs to be line items that are the same. The electricity should be budgeted by commodity, how much of it we use, and there should be a grand
Right.
budget.
breakdown budget, yeah.
There should be a grand budget that tells you what our bills are, so that we're not wondering about who's covered by what. So we should be looking at how to restructure these things to be more transparent in how we go through this arena.
so go back and say that again for the layman in the audience. Well, the commodity piece of it, what I'm trying to get at is, do you want to see things like electricity pulled into one budget?
No, what he's saying, he'd like to see the line item of one budget.
By departments, by
And then
whatever.
broken out off of that, the departments.
If you have a department, we have a general electricity bill that we get from the cog. It should say that this meter said this, and this meter said that, and this meter said that, and this meter said that.
Okay.
And then, as you get down, you should be able to say that
Then you can see that there is no elementary school meter.
No, we don't get that bill.
there should be a meter on it.
There should be a meter
Yeah,
on
but
it.
we don't get that bill.
I
We don't
know,
even
I
see it.
know.
We should be entitled to it because it is our departments that are expending those monies from the town. And even though it's a line item budget, we're accountable that for both the moral responsibility of how much electricity we use. That's what the
Green con-
energy committee's all about, and the green communities are. Those things are important to how we structure our budgets. And basically, think it's important that we have that
So what
breakdown.
Mark is looking for the total, and then a breakdown. And I know it's,
Well, no, here's the problem. We used to get that from HCOG, but now that we've set up a fixed price contract with them, all that information comes through on the Wamiko bill. We don't have it set up in a way that we used to receive. And for purposes of explanation, I know less is more here, but what we used to have to do, they would send us one bill. It referenced the meters for particular departments.
Yeah.
We would actually throw that into a spreadsheet and charge it off, and then make sure that we gave the information to them so they could run their budgets. This doesn't happen anymore because that billing responsibility gets funneled through Wamiko. So you'd have to go through each bill and compile it. And honestly, I think that's an onerous amount of time. But I will say, based on my own experience and working with Kevin, he's monitoring the electricity costs just like he's monitoring his heating costs.
But he can't control, if we have one that's out of whack, one small thing that's out of whack and is costing us $2,000 or $3,000 a budget on $100,000 overhead things, we're not going to pick up on it. But over a year's period of time, we've spent $24,000 that isn't accountable for. We bill our people in the town for water or for sewage by water usage. And we did that so that we could cut down on the amount of water that's being used in the town, and people paid for what they got. We're going to say that the town's buildings are not held to the same standard in the fact that we could have everybody subsidizing Tilton Library, everybody subsidizing the highway garage, because basically we get one big bill and we're not going to figure out where the money was actually, where the electricity was really spent, because it's too onerous. I think that's a cop-out. I think that basically
We should be able to set it up by, there should be some way, I mean, obviously you can't do it right now, but what I'm saying is there should be, Mark is correct in the sense that we should have some kind of breakout that you can still put in a
and I
spreadsheet.
think it'd be to our benefit, because
Yeah, and that way
that's
you
how
can-
we got, that's how with the sewer treatment facilities, we were able to bring in $12,000 to $14,000 savings, is because we realized that the motors weren't on a variable. If that was in a full bill right now and nobody picked it up, how would we capture that benefit? How would we know that we actually saved ourselves $12,000 a year by just changing to variable speed motors?
Let me see if I can find that.
We should
Let
be
me
able to
talk to
request
MA,
from
because I
Western
think
Mass
there's-
Electric that we want a separate bill for each meter that they read.
We do. We have a separate bill for each meter they read now. The other part of this was HCOG would bill for the cost of the electricity. We still received a delivery charge bill from Wamiko.
Correct.
We only have one bill now. The reference on the bill is your electricity provider is Hampshire Council of Governments. But the bill includes the entire cost now. We don't get a breakout from HCOG anymore.
But HCOG should be able to give us that without any problem at all.
So that's maybe,
HCOG,
I asked
because
them a question.
they get a summarized bill for all this money, they've got to be able to tell us what meters did what, and all we have to do is put buildings to meter numbers.
but to your other point, in terms of the elementary school, I would have to contact the superintendent's office and see if if Patty can get me that information. I don't ever see that bill.
Joe should be able to give it to us, and if they're going through a co-op, then they should be able to give it to us without any problem at all. I mean, who pays the bill?
The elementary school.
They pay it, or do we pay it here?
Well, that's a little convoluted, but yes, they send us the information of them sending the checks out. We do, once a month they send us that stuff. So I would have to talk to Brenda, but it's one line item, so I don't know what she's got it broken out for cost codes, so I'd have to talk to her. I haven't looked at that. I look at the other ones.
No, I just think it'd be very valuable to, we look at what kind of savings we can get across the board, no matter who's responsible for the bill or not, because it all comes out of taxpayers' money.
Yes. So what do you want to, so you want to see a breakdown of the meters, of the charges against the meters? What do you want to see? Because I need to have an idea so that I can put something together.
Well, just like you get a monthly usage bill.
You can see that, the up and down for the past year based on that month when you look at your electric bill, right? And we
So-
see that too on the electric bills
So-
that we
But
get.
they should be giving that to the COG or to the school for every bill they send out.
All right, let me
And
see
all
what
we're
we're
asking
talking.
for is for them to send us those bills so we can track them if we think it's, I mean, the biggest thing in the world is somebody should be looking at this as a sanity check. If something
You just-
spikes real high, if you're getting it in a, as I said, you get a $2,000 increase in a bill and your bill's $100,000 or $150,000, it could be a bunch of little things that are causing it, but you'll never pick up on the one failed item if you don't look at those numbers. And we should be tracking those numbers across all of our usage because it's the only way we get a good representative thought process.
Okay, let me talk to the COG, and I'll see if I can get Patty. on
The,
the phone.
both sewer plants are on that Hampshire cog thing?
Yes, sir.
Because those would be the big ones for us to track, and that should.
They are, in fact,
It
the
should
big
be
ones.
tracking those without any problem.
Once, and the reason why I want to set it up is because when the solar projects kick in, there should be a drop.
Mhm.
So-
Theoretically.
Yeah, theoretically. So we want to see, it would be nice to be able to track that drop.
And I'll tell you a short story. The telephone company, we took two things off for our bill, and our bill's massive, and it went up by, $50,000. And everybody said, so what? What had happened was instead of taking the things off the bill, they added them on twice. So $50,000 plus the $50,000 they were supposed to cut off was $100,000 a month on a $500,000 bill. Doesn't add up to much, but after 22 years, it does equate to a little bit of money.
That's a little bit of.
And they'll only rebate 6 months, so if you're not paying attention, they got you.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's gross.
And the only reason we caught it is because we went to turn something else off, and they sent the bill to us showing all the stuff we had. We go, wait, we don't have this, and we don't have that, and they said, oh, whoops, well, we bad. So,
I wonder our electric rates are so high.
It's killer.
but it's easy to bury things in bills that we don't pay attention to.
I have to say, we have been looking at those because of that change with the HCOG. So we're observing because
I know.
we've experienced this with Verizon. When there's a change in something, it often takes a while to
Yeah.
catch up with their billing.
Now, on the telephone expense, so you think it's going to go up to 10,000?
It's already going to be there. I did the calculation for 6 months. We're going to be a little bit over. So last year, I think it was a little
Under.
under. What I did, I was just looking for it.
It just seems like a lot of money for a phone system.
It's not the phone system itself, it's the numbers. We have a lot of numbers, and keep in mind, we just added 4 more lines.
Okay.
We have, over the period of several years, these have added up, and we don't honestly know. I mean, I can tell you what the cost per line if I look at the bill, and some of the costs for Centrix have dropped a little as we're part of the state contract. It's massively difficult to monitor. That is one of the hardest things for I think any town if they don't have somebody dedicated to that one thing. And I used to do a lot of that. But after looking at what we've expended to date, I think that adjustment in that particular item could be useful. But what it means is, which one are you looking at? Town
Those are
office
made. I
expenses?
think we got to that one.
When you go, I know this is off a state contract, so it's not a big deal, but when you go to any of your admin meetings or whatever, just find out who people have for phone.
Actually, I've actually talked to the folks at Chambers Advisory Group about that, and there's some follow-up, but we did, because Mark and I had a conversation about that months and months and months ago.
Yeah, and you blew me off, so I
did
wasn't
not
going to
blow
say
you off.
anything.
I
I was
asked
gonna
the question, blow you off. I asked the question I asked for a little help from a guy, and
Well, I
we have
appreciate
to
you
talk
following up
about it.
because we had the conversation and you said, no, we're doing great, we're doing fine. And I went, technology's changed so much in
It
the
has.
last 2 years that basically get the chamber group in here. They don't charge you anything and all they do is take 10% of the savings.
They take us, I can't remember what I
Well,
can't
it used to
remember
be
the last
10%,
time
but yeah.
they did it, but
The last time they took 10, but
essentially it's another review of what we're getting for
I think
phone
that's-
services.
I think it's worthwhile, because I agree with Mark. Stuff is really tricky.
And the other thing is, what I'd recommend is that any place that we have Comcast, you can get a free phone line with it. So you can take that and dedicate the lines to whatever you want, and they're internet accessible, so you can actually, if you're using a phone line for a monitoring system or a website system
Wait,
or
I don't
whatever.
understand when you say Comcast. You mean related to the FGAT kind of stuff?
Any place where we have Comcast into the system that's a service to us.
Oh, really?
There is a phone line that's associated with that, plus a
So maybe we
dedicated
can drop our,
ISP. So if we've got phones that we've got in there for a alarm system or a
drop
functional
one of our
alarm,
lines.
that's what I would
Some
look
of
into.
well, I just want to say, Kevin and I, we talked about this months ago because of the phone system at the highway garage. Alarm lines,
I know.
we went through the whole analog thing.
I know.
Alarm lines needed to be analog. So,
But I think
But
maybe
we could-
worth trying.
But if we have
through.
if, and you need dedicated phone lines for elevators and all of that other stuff. But the reality is you can take your normal in-process line, have it be Comcast, and you keep the analog as the alarm line. And they can back one another up. You have two ways of getting into that facility at all times. I put automatic ring down lines on all of my elevators because basically it's a totally different line, independent. So if I lose my system, my PBX or anything like that, I can go over to the elevator. It's tapped right in, pick up the phone, dial whoever I need to, and I got an emergency call out. And I don't have to be trapped in the elevator to make the phone call. It's got to be dedicated out, but you can use it for other applications if it's an emergency, a backup emergency capability.
well, I don't know if a Centrix line, dropping one Centrix line isn't going to save us a huge amount of money, realistically.
I think that we don't even have to worry about that aspect, but here's an opportunity for them to use technology to make things better. Say we get satellite, or not satellite, but
Is it voice over internet protocol?
yeah, that's what Comcast is.
Okay, that's what I was
Most-
thinking, and I had talked to
Most
Rob
and-
about that.
Yeah, and most of today's technology, even if it's a dedicated four-wire or analog system, it goes to what's called a cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So all it is what takes you out of the building to the street. And then once you get to the CO, it becomes internet, voice over internet
Right,
protocol. So
I had pretty pictures.
we need to,
Pretty pictures work.
Chamberlain Group can come in here and ferret between all of those roads and tell us what is the best way to save the best amount of money to get the same service that's required via those alarm systems and those other things.
And that was one of the things, that was actually the meeting with Rob was talking about that, because you had said that to me, and I thought to myself, VoIP might be cheaper.
Oh, what is,
And
and the other thing about VoIP is we have phones in our facilities that are actually off of PBX that's in Boston. So Brattleboro, Vermont, something fails, our phones automatically go out to the net, voice over IP, to a PBX exchange in Boston. So we could lose all of New England and the River Valley effect, and we could still pick up a phone and pick up
Okay.
a call from.
I'll see if I can fit some time in to talk to Rob, because we had emailed each other about it again. So it's a good time to look at it.
I
I
would keep Doug in the loop on that one. if
Oh,
you-
absolutely.
He's got the technology basis
Yes,
knowledge
we have
to
talked
talk
about that
it.
briefly, but we've been working on training and other daily things. So,
I make a motion we approve this budget then, subject to, or tentatively approve it.
Tentatively?
Yeah.
This is the office expenses?
that's the town office expense,
Yeah.
which includes publishing town reports and telephone.
Well, I mean,
And
I think it's
supplies.
worth, I can't believe this is like dead. This is like brand new.
Here, You want blue? I have blue.
Thank you.
The Sharpie went dead?
I know.
I just
That's
got
They
almost-
last forever, don't they?
No, I just got it. Did it to mark out
Did
stuff.
you look at the expiration date on it?
I'm sorry, Carolyn.
No, I don't.
I didn't know there was.
No,
I think there was one of
one.
those. They take forever to die.
No,
There
it's just
isn't
two
one, I'm
long
just
days.
teasing. Go.
No, I can't cope with long days. Okay.
Okay, so town office expense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you can come up with something, that would be great.
I can try. I can't guarantee it because
It's just
It-
whenever. Besides, once we get beyond this and you can focus in on it and you can do it, that's
that was initially why I had wanted
Yeah.
to talk to Rob in the first place. So let's.
I think we were going to hold on the highway department.
Yes.
So we talked to Kevin.
So my question for you is, let us, actually, my suggestion, let me rephrase that. If we can get you a narrative, I think it'll help with your questions to some extent.
Right.
And then if you have other questions, we can draft them based on that information. So I will work with Kevin on that. I had advised the question about reviewing, with the Finance Committee yesterday, the question about reviewing the police department budget had come up. And I advised them to go through the narrative, because John details very succinctly the focus he has when developing his budget. And I also suggested to them that once they do that review, they can come back and they can brainstorm questions to present to him. And it should create a little more efficiency in that conversation, but he could also write it down and send something back to them. So I'm thinking that might be a good way to handle just the flow of information right now, since there's a bigger issue of just getting through the piles of paper.
Okay.
That was just a thought. I did talk to Diana. You all had asked me to get a little bit of clarification from Diana
On the-
about South County Senior Center. Now, one thing that didn't make it through last week when you all were talking about that was her narrative.
Oh, okay.
And particularly the question you had asked me to talk to her about was the reduction in, I think it was heating oil. Gas, because they have a gas system. That's in the 500.
Okay, well, I'll find it 100s, I guess.
It was in the 500. Do you want mine?
Nope.
So you had tentatively approved it last week, but you wanted a clarification on that gas in the maintenance and facilities section. So I did get that clarification. They're realizing some savings with the decrease in gas costs and their usage. They've been monitoring what they use over a period of time, and her determination when developing the budget was that could be decreased a little bit and still be comfortable for her in terms of the amount of money she sets aside for it. But I'd also, when you have a few minutes, if you want to sit down and read through her narrative.
It's a good narrative.
It
And
is.
does-
I asked her to really focus on certain things. And this is
And,
what I had said to everybody when we sat down a few weeks
It
ago.
answers most of our questions.
Okay. I think she met with Mark Perhinsky over in Whately, too. So I think they've started that conversation in terms of the budgets.
So,
I know, it's a lot of paper to stick in places in that budget book. 3-ring binders are everyone's
I have to
favorite.
say, though, this is really organized compared to what we.
I have to thank Doug for that. And we're trying to, the problem is you have to keep inserting the paper, and this happens every year. So at least you have sections. You know, the setting them up based on the UMass book with the governmental sections, for the most part, is useful. Although I do have to say, some of the old numbers, and you'll see that if we want to briefly take a look at South County EMS, just for you to get an idea. I did get that budget. There's a couple budgets that are revolving or enterprise that have old numbers, so they don't truly fit into the UMass system. And that hadn't changed over a period of years, so we left it the way it was. And I talked to, Mary and I actually talked about it yesterday, and what we were gonna do, just individually, is put the 3 funds that we're looking at into that section, understanding that they're enterprise funds. So, if you wanna take a look, let me just find it.
How close is Barb to getting her
I
budget?
don't know. I didn't get a chance to talk to her this morning. She had a town clerk conference.
Oh, yeah.
She and I had talked about the OPEB development, the plan that she really
I was
wants
just
to.
going to say, we should probably, I threw out 300 just based on my best guess, but we should sit down with Barbara
Absolutely.
and look at this information that she's gathered. And, it can't be far off because it's based on 2013 GAPSB, but those numbers are even more scary, so,
Well,
What numbers are more scary?
the OPEB numbers.
the OPEB numbers.
These numbers here?
No, I had actually, the conversation really was around the.
This is where I got the,
Development.
we were going to try to come up with a more, people had kind of freaked out at the 300,000. And I explained that if you take the 1.3 million from our GAPSB 45 report from 2013, and then you add the 500,000 that's our share of the Frontier million, that is close to 2 million. And if we pay it out 300,000 for 6 or 7 years, we preserve our A++ bond rating, which whatever we do for wastewater treatment and bond and the school roof, elementary school roof bond issue, we'll save money there, quite a bit of money. And then Casey and I have been trying to sort down the figure. If you fully are funding your OPEB obligation, you actually pay less on your pension payments. So we've been trying to figure out what the actual savings is on the pension that would offset.
And this is a
our
conversation with Barb.
And so, I was hoping the finance committee would come up with this kind of stuff, but I guess we're just going to have to. So we could sit down with Barb and try to come up with, we can spend the money, because the elementary school had offered to split a consultant, but, I just hate spending money when we could be paying you down some money. So
Well,
if we have a sort of a best guess estimate, that might be the way to go for a couple of years, and then we can sort of refine it after we've made some payments.
So here was the conversation I had with Barb, and she's going to bring this to you all. Barb is concerned, and it has a lot to do with the responsibility that the town has for the OPEB costs, but also coming up with a plan, because to Carolyn's point, in order to bond now, you have to have a plan in place for funding. You don't necessarily have to have all the money, but you have to have a plan in place. It's part of their review of your financial
Well,
status.
They give you extra points for actually funding it.
Yeah, they
you
do.
can say that we have a plan, but if you don't actually fund it, you don't get
And
credit.
that's very true. I'm not trying to take away from that,
No,
but
no, no.
I think if you can give Barb a chance to present that to you, it would be useful. I know she's working on it. I have to say, though, there's a function in the software changeover that both she and Brenda are doing. So she did tell me, she
It's in
came
the
to me
numbers.
earlier, end of last week, beginning of this week, and reminded me that she was working on that, but she didn't give me a time frame that she'll get that OPEB information to you. I think she wanted a little bit of time just to review some information and come up with some sort of a game plan to discuss without putting too many words in her mouth.
Okay.
Well, with these numbers, we should just fire everybody because there's no way we can afford any of it.
Well,
But-
truthfully, Mark, there is a whole camp of people that say that we can't afford it, so they just are ignoring it. They're
I'm
not
not
funding it.
I'm not ignoring it. The thing about it is you've got two camps. You have those that are running around doing the chicken dance of, God almighty, we're going to get killed with this, and the other ones that said, let's ignore it, and they play ostrich. And we got the chicken and the ostrich is fighting it out. and I don't think anybody really knows what it is. So when I talked to Casey today, if we know what our commitment is for our retirees today, and we took an arbitrary number saying that basically, and again, this is based upon a calculation of what we're going to be short when all the baby boomers get into the system.
Right, and that's what those numbers are.
So,
But those are like multi-million.
yeah, and that's if everybody
I-
lives to be 150 years old or have blue eyes and die of old age when
It
when
comes
they
up
have.
pretty fast.
It's unbelievable. This whole thing is based upon a thought, and we're not going to
Well,
win.
it wasn't even a line, it's not, it's a brand-new line item, so it's,
That was the discussion.
that's what the discussion is. You're making us pay for a brand-new line item.
They make it a line item, and they say you have to adopt it, or if you
You have to
adopt it.
adopt the
If you
statute.
adopt it, you have to do that. You can't do it until you adopt the statute, which is bogus in the sense that we can put away whatever we want for money if we know what we think we're going to do. And I can't see those numbers going way out there unless we continue to hire.
Well, if you do it in a 5-year thing, Mark,
Mhm.
2018,
Yeah.
we have 71 based on our current employment.
Mhm.
We have 71 retirees, spouses, and surviving spouses.
Right.
Okay.
Versus 53. So we went up by 18 people.
Right.
And you're telling me that 18 people is going to equate to $7 million in debt? Carolyn, I want to retire now because that kind of debt I could live off of without any problem whatsoever. So-
Mark, these aren't my numbers. I use
This
more
is-
conservative numbers.
But this
even
is the
more
actuarial study
conservative.
summary
Yeah.
is what that is.
You have 3 kids that might differ from you on that
I'm not
opinion.
going to get any of it, so I'm not going to worry about retiring.
Mark, these weren't my numbers. These were the
But Carolyn,
professional
you're missing the
numbers.
point. I'm not
No,
blaming
I know,
anybody or
I know.
taking sides, but the reality is, nobody knows because we've got both camps.
But that's,
Let's go to the worst, let's go to the case.
What's
I'm
it-
pretty sure that the town of Deerfield can't take, basically, if you go by those numbers, over 1/2 of its budget,
well,
its
Mark, that's
annual
why we
budget,
have
and
to
be
make,
able to do something with it.
that's why we have to put money aside.
That's
I mean,
the
that's
thing, and
where
most of
I
the
feel
towns-
very compelled to do this.
How much money is in the Franklin County Retirement Fund right now for the town of Deerfield?
When it was defunct, had 400 million.
Yeah.
I know.
And
Well, it's
they were bringing,
depressing
they
numbers.
were actually in the rears. That wasn't an OPEC thing. They weren't even going to be able to, in a short period of time, with the people in the system, be able to support the people in the system.
It's huge growth.
We're paying for our people now.
Plus, you're putting a little away toward the liability coming
The
down
problem
the line.
is
And
it's-
this is
Right.
for Mary. I think
It's,
I think
it's,
Mary said that
Mary's
last
taking
night.
us out a lot.
Got to be
But this is.
X number of dollars in that fund that are dedicated towards the employees of the town of Deerfield.
Yes. Well, it's part of our assessment.
Yeah.
But OPEB is more related to your health benefit liability that's coming down the line.
It's your
We are
health
paying
insurance.
toward the
Your
retirement
health
cost.
insurance.
But we're all beyond Mouse Health by that period of time, so it's not going to cost us anything.
Well, honest to God, there's 2 camps. They say we have Charlie Baker and Scott Walker
She was
did what we
explaining it
had
today.
in Wisconsin, and he's running for president, and that's what's going to happen. And then there was another camp that is putting several $100,000 away every year, and so that's how come I came up with these numbers.
So, but to be fair.
Which is sort of in the middle.
Let me
And I
repeat what's underlined.
based it.
And, if you look at it from a yearly responsibility, there is that. But realistically, most towns can't afford to fund at that level. So they're funding it, what they're doing is creating the accounts and then setting a funding plan up and then funding based on the plans. And you have to go into it understanding you're not going to be able to fund your annual requirement in your first year for the most part, unless
But you
you
never
have a
catch
lot of
up.
money sitting in an account,
No,
which
no,
you
no,
don't.
but you'll never catch up. And we have to have some,
That's why the spending plans get put together.
Let me ask you a question.
well, you're just trying to be conservative, Mark, fiscally conservative. Deerfield's
Are
always
you
been.
answering my question before I ask it?
No.
Because Carolyn, I've already come to the conclusion, I hope you've realized it, that we don't have anything we can make a judgment on. None of the information we have in front of us makes any sense to make judgment on it at this point in time. So that's where I'm from in here, and no matter
Why
how
don't you
you...
let Barb get back to us with some information?
Well, I mean, I pulled the numbers off of GAPSB 45. I mean, that's a conservative review of our financial situation. I think those...
Which is why you have the summary.
I feel that is, a legitimate basis. I mean, we pay someone to do that for us.
And it has to be done every 3 years.
It has to be done every 3 years. So the last one we have is the June 13th. And if you look at our OPED commitment, at the end of the year, it was $1,278,093. So, I mean, it is a couple years out of date. But to me, that's a legitimate number.
Wait a minute.
These are paid accountants.
Don't even go into that. Paid accountants make work for paid accountants. They're going to continue to figure numbers to get us to where they need to go. Right now, we have retirees in place, and we're meeting the commitments to have them done. And you're going to tell me that we're going to be meeting the obligations, paying them as we go. We're going to be $1 million in the hole
In 5 years.
in 5 years,
Yes.
if we're paying our obligations now. We aren't accruing any debt.
We're paying our obligations right now,
Yep.
this year,
This year.
but based on the people in the system, here in the town hall and at the elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
we will be in the hole.
Now, we just had 4 of our major players in town go out and retire,
And that jumped
and it jumped it up to where we are now.
yes.
Now, we've got the equivalent of that happening in the next 4 years. The equivalent of the police chief, the tax collector, and everybody else, and all the retirees we've had from the sewer treatment plant have retired, and it has jumped our rate up to $68,000. And you're telling me that in 4 years, enough people are going to retire in the town of Deerfield to get that to be $1 million obligation. And you believe that? You honestly believe that, Carolyn?
It's in here.
I don't care if it's in there. You honestly believe that we're going to have enough
We
people
don't
retire?
pay, if we don't pay, Mark, if we don't pay towards it, if we just pay as we go, based on the people that are retiring, Mark, this is the paid report of the people in the system.
I think we should get our money back.
Mark,
Because I can't see where you can
Mark,
find
I'm
enough
not-
people in this town to retire to get to $1 million obligation if today's obligation is $68,000.
Mark, I'm not going to argue with you.
This is what I think you should wait and talk to Barbara
You can
about
talk to
it. I
Barb
do.
about it. I
But for
believe that
purposes of
number.
understanding what
I don't believe
needs
the
to be
$7 million
funded.
one, okay? I don't believe the $7 million one, but you're paying for retirees, their spouse, and surviving spouses. And it's a cumulative thing, and it's based on who's in the system. It was paid to do. I'm sorry, Mark, those are the
I know.
numbers. And
So for purposes of interpretation, I think, let's let Barb come back to us.
It's
I mean,
fine.
if you want to read
Fine.
I did put the executive summary in there, so it sort of distills the bigger parts of the report.
No, you know what? That's what freaks Mark out.
The executive summary.
The executive
I
summary.
read this document, and basically, this document is almost as if we were Worcester. It's not even in the ballpark.
It doesn't seem like that should be the case, but there's,
All right,
just
I'm
skimming
not-
it, it's-
I'm-
Let me
I'm
ask you.
scary.
Let me ask you a simple question.
Mark, you
If
can
we
join the group
believe
down there
that,
freaked out.
if you believe that $1 million,
why I'm
$1,003,000, that means that what we took on in debt for the highway garage is equivalent to what we're going to take on debt for just our retirees in 5 years.
That's what they said.
that's what they said.
And you believe that?
No, I'm saying that's
I got
what
a
they
couple
said. I don't
cars
know
I'd
what I
like to
believe
sell.
of this.
I have a couple automobiles.
But that's the thing. This is the piece.
Cumulative.
This is the piece that's difficult to
It's
wrap your head
not
around.
cumulative if you pay as you go, Carolyn. You
but
cannot
they-
accumulate anything if you've already paid it.
But they're saying that we can't pay it, that it's gonna get to the point where we can't pay
In
it.
5 years?
The pay-as-you-go thing is, you can do that, but I don't know that the town has the money to do that right now. That's why I want Barbara to come back and say, hey, this is what we should look
The
at.
basic, the thought process we have right now is basically flawed in the fact that pay-as-you-go for me
So-
is you pay as you go. In other words, you've paid it. Like this year, we pay our
So
$68,000.
can I say that you're the Scott Walker group?
No, because I got news for you. Both sides of that, the chickens who are running around with their head looking for something falling, and the ostriches who bury their face in the sand are both equally wrong. In some place, there's a reality here, and I don't think it's on any of the papers you're going to see here. And to
Well-
put money away for it when we've got so many other things that are demanding our time seems totally ridiculous to me. And I'm sorry, there's no common sense in any of this discussion. So.
The finance gurus at the state are saying you need to start doing it. And the GASB 45 report is serious enough that it certainly got our attention and Skip's
Well, it
attention.
freaked
So
me
they did
out.
have a conversation about it.
Yeah,
I
thank
think
you.
the better part of
Thank you.
valor is to talk to, let Barb come forward and the four of you have a
We better
conversation
have
about it.
a little, we better,
Yeah, and then we'll have a little
we'll have a
crying
subcommittee
session
meeting.
afterward.
No, we'll have a subcommittee meeting first.
There you go.
We're going to have it at Wolfie's, and there'll be plenty of crafts of wine to
Can
discuss
we
this.
have French
issue.
fries? No, I'm kidding. So, no, I just, it was a conversation that the finance committee had, and it is something that I know we'll end up
Did
going
you-
back to.
Did you give this to the finance committee?
I did,
Okay.
because
So
they
un-
asked me for it.
Okay.
And it really, the executive summary, it's still, in some ways, it's hard to digest, but at least they have something to read, and I offered to give them the report if they wanted it, but I didn't want to print it out unless they asked me, because it's a 40-page report.
I
Well,
know,
why don't
it
you
is.
just-
I was trying to save paper.
I think you should put it on the desk there and say that anybody wants to read it can come in and read it.
Yes, and
You
I
know
did
what,
say
you
that.
should give Skip the full copy so that he has reference to it.
I think he has a copy of it, but
No,
if
maybe
he
he does
asks me,
have
I
a
will.
copy. I don't know.
I gave,
He
well,
doesn't-
Dylan had asked me
He
for it.
he doesn't have enough to go around telling us we have to go to a Proposition 2.5 without giving him this $7 million
Sure.
budget.
She already gave it to him.
But your recommendation, Carolyn, think about what you're saying.
I
Well,
didn't say
if I
the
don't give
7.
it to him, Barb
I didn't
will
say
give
the
it to him,
7.
because I'm sure, I think he already has it, because I think he asked
You're
Barb for it.
missing, that's okay.
So,
You should be giving him all
Regardless.
of that information. I totally agree that it should go to him.
Okay, so should we look back at street lighting, which looks more reasonable, quick?
okay, so the reasonable part was me, I looked at this, what we've expended this year, and I doubled it, and I looked at it, and I looked at what we had reduced. It's in many ways, it's a shot in the dark. It is a little bit of an increase, but it reflects,
Where are we in this?
streetlights.
I'm glad we're,
Sorry.
what's the number? It's in the
See, the
4
other tab
sections,
distracted me,
okay.
too.
Well, OPED is extremely distracting. It's depressing.
Yeah.
It's distressing. I think we can think
I
of,
like
we
that,
could,
it's distressing.
it's distressing and depressing.
Streetlight, so it's actually 001424.
So, I would say, let's,
I didn't increase it much, but I looked at what we're spending, and I said, okay, this is what we're spending. We do have a contract, but to be honest with you, it's a shot in the dark. Last year, it was a shot in the dark, too. I think we're going to end up having to get a transfer on this, though, for this account by the end of the
We shut
fiscal
down a
year.
lot of streetlights in 50,
that only kept us from asking for a bigger transfer. I mean, we still had to ask
Yeah.
for a transfer. But, the problem is it's becoming more and more expensive.
You could think about it. Just let it.
No, like I said, maybe we,
No, what I need to do is have the information that you did, the calculations you did out, so we can look at what we've consumed so far, and what is.
what would be the cost to switch to buying them and then putting in
No,
LEDs
the
or
thing-
LEDs?
The thing about it is if,
Can we, are you saying that the electric company will allow us to do the LEDs? You said that earlier?
I said that they will not fund
The LEDs.
going to LEDs.
But they would let us switch to LEDs, so if we
If
bought the bulbs.
If we bought the units.
We would
But
have
then
to-
that would save us from actually buying the poles, right?
We own, the poles are part of our domain. It's the light head that would have to be changed out.
Okay.
In any place where we
And
had
that's what you're
poles-
buying, is the light head?
Yes.
Who's going to
We
install
own the
it?
poles?
The
But if
poles
it's
are on our right of way.
Yeah, but if a car hits a pole, they come
The
out.
electric company comes out
and
and,
fixes it.
the
We
telephone
don't.
company comes out and fixes it, not the electric company. There are
Oh.
telephone poles. The electric company pays the telephone company a surcharge for being on the
Yeah,
pole.
but we don't pay for it.
No,
So how do we,
we own the rights to them. That's the
Oh,
reason we
okay.
can charge Comcast for being in our town, because they are attached to the poles, which we give them this town's right of way to be on.
This is all very complicated.
it is complicated.
No, it's pretty simplistic.
Yeah, but he knows.
You know,
It's
I
pretty
don't know
simplistic.
that.
It's the telephone, that, I
What would be
wondered about
very,
that.
what would be
So-
very helpful for me is if you could give me the usage for the percentage of the year at this point in time, because we're now a full year into having us reduce the rates, with the exception of the 3 that we allowed to go back up in place.
So far
Or
this
2.
year, we've expended 18,100.
And that's really what I did. I looked at that. I
So-
went back and looked at what we had.
So-
to
That is as of when?
transfer.
As of the end of January.
January.
Okay, so we've got 6 months left of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is,
Yes.
this is 51.75% of the
June.
budget.
So that
what
bill
she did-
actually
Five
comes
more
so what-
months, right?
So what she did is just doubled it.
We pay 12 months, so you figure, I doubled it.
It's 5 more months. You double what we use, which is.
I doubled
20,
it for
which is-
this year.
So she's pretty close.
Well, it is.
Because it didn't, but all those lights didn't actually go in effect. I mean, did we drop them?
Yeah,
It was
we dropped them
summer,
all,
We dropped.
As of July 1st?
I think, pretty much.
was-
But it was summertime, so they'd be at
This is
unless
before
hours
that. We should be
anyway.
a whole year into
Into
this.
that
Into this
usage.
usage.
Um,
Summertime is longer hours,
Right, so it'd be less
But
use.
because we
Okay, so
started
you want the
June,
usage
yeah.
for the percent.
and then there's more usage through the middle section, and then it starts backing off on the other. So we're going to have a little bit less
For the end of the
for
year.
for the end 6 months, but
Yeah.
we're only 5 months.
But the
We're
other,
actually, this is actually 7 months of the year if it's the end of January, end of this month, end of July, January.
the bill for
So-
January hasn't come yet. We won't get it until.
So if we, so the light bulb for, we could standardize all luminance, because remember, that was one of the big deals.
No, you'd want to keep the lumens the same because basically you could increase them wherever you wanted to, but a lot of them were cut down because there were too much light out there.
Okay.
And the lumens are different. That's why I wanted to compare apples to apples, is the fact that
Okay.
if you look at the lights, and David will attest to this, if you look at those lights with the same wattage conversion, the lights in here would be much brighter. Did you see that on the fluorescent? So the fluorescent lights now are much dimmer than what is the new LED lights, and LED lights are brilliant.
They are. I have them in my kitchen.
So
Yeah.
I got my refrigerator. in.
Well, you told me about I mean, we found out about the cheaper light bulbs, so I actually replaced the light bulbs on Sunday when I went
So-
over and checked. I bought 4 or 5.
job.
Or 5 of them, I guess.
Yeah, I bought $180 worth. So, and that's after I had my Mass Save. Mass Save came in and gave me 5 LED lights, and that's what convinced me to look
Yeah,
into
we
this
just
thing.
finished one of those too.
If you ask them, they'll give you LED lights for the outsides of your stuff, free. And basically, when you put those up, when we went to the barn and we turned on the lights for the first 20 minutes, you can't see
Free
anything.
outdoor lights?
The free, because LED lights are outdoor indoor lights. There's no bulb to it. It doesn't take any heat, doesn't create any problem. So they went around all the outside stuff, the chicken coop, they replaced the one in the chicken coop. And I said, no, you don't, yeah, go ahead, replace it, because in the chicken coop, it's there for the heat. It's not there for the light. It's there to keep the chickens warm. So I had to go back and pull it back out because there's no heat on an LED light. They'll lay eggs longer, but they won't be warm. They'll get a little chilly. but
Two little legs could get cold.
we could actually set this up so that you needed less banks of lights on when we turned on, so we'd save energy on that also. The
you could-
amount of
So you could
thought,
get a
so,
heat lamp for the chicks, that they would replace?
no, I had a light
I know.
it was actually for the, extend their
Because that heat
their laying
lamp
period.
is costing a lot of electricity.
I just put 2 regular 60-watt light bulbs and they're fine. It stops
Really?
the eggs from freezing, it's
Really?
everything, so. I
Wow.
don't use the heat lamp except for
Whoa.
chicks.
So I have a question. So to go back to what you wanted me to get you want the usage for the percentage of the.
He's already given me the
Okay,
answer.
that's what
I
I was
don't need
hoping
it.
he would say,
Thank
but
you.
that
Thank you,
was what I
David.
used. That report was what I used.
Well, when you described it to me, it was like we didn't have the information, and you said, I took this number, I doubled it, and I did this, and I'm going, I'm sorry.
No, I did all
On
of the
what he
things that
told
I
you.
made, all the things we've discussed that I had made changes and presented to you are based on past
Usage.
information
Yep.
and the current reports that we
I-
have.
So anyway, to get back to the light bulb thing, that should be a request to capital, I think.
There's going to be a capital cost because, correct me if I'm wrong, don't we have to go, if we're going to make changes to the bulbs themselves on the poles, that is an install question too, right?
We're going
That's
to have
an install cost.
right. Well, let's not install, we're going to have to replace the heads. The light bulbs.
So the head,
It
you
would
have
be
to
like,
purchase.
if we came in
It's not
here,
just
everything
buying it,
hanging.
it's the install as well.
Install into, well, but
Okay,
the
so-
company that we buy it from will install it for nothing. So
Do you have the
it's
information
included.
for that company you talked to?
Yes, I do.
If you do, if you don't, that's okay. I can actually call the MMA and see if they have.
There are 35 companies that did street lightings. That's how much money's in this thing. There, on every corner, there was people selling street lights.
I know,
And
that's
you
why
can-
Mark,
and you
it
can
was
get-
Mark that was.
See, I
had to
didn't
go
stop
down.
at the
could get-
street light guys.
You could get from $8,000 a head to replace a head to $1,200 or,
I went to the wastewater
I think it
treatment,
was
how to
less.
fund
I
the
went and talked
wastewater
to them. I
treatment.
talked to the school, the building, the building group that Marty and Patty are sending their request to. I talked to them. I
Oh,
have
that's
his
good.
card and I can call him if I have questions.
Well, I have that I found out about that P3 funding, so.
Okay.
So I did
All right.
I did my stint, it wasn't as productive as yours, that's all.
All right, so
Well, it's all
do you
good.
want
It
more
all works the
information on
same.
that?
What?
no, I think that I've got what I need so that when I talk to these people and we look at what the cost, because what we're doing is, our bill used to be $41,000 when we embarked on
All these
saving electricity.
changings.
And we took away all these light poles and we did everything else. And your projections now are going to be, we're going to be back at $41,000 next year.
Possibly. But keep in mind, part of that's the cost for electricity itself. It's
Oh,
just
no, no,
going
no,
up.
no,
We-
I know.
exactly.
Even with a locked-in price, it's
That's
still.
what I'm saying, is, there's
In
no
2
other
years.
cost to this. This,
In 2 years, it will be back up to where it was.
all they're
when we
charging
go
us
the new
for
rate.
is electricity and a little bit of wear and tear on the bulb. Is we're renting them from them. So the
That was
reality
what I
is,
understood.
they're not part of the Hampshire cog in that aspect of it. So if we own them, we will be part of Hampshire cog and we'll save money on fixing the rate on our electric bill on this aspect of it.
Okay, so that's another piece of lowering the costs for not just the fixed rate itself, but the overall ownership of the cost for those lights themselves.
The only problem we have at that point is if we have to do, after we get them installed, we either have to take a contract for people to maintain them, or we have to get a bucket truck. Or we have the fire department to help us out with their platform.
Well,
But
we're
there's other costs.
Borrowing a bucket truck, I think we should buy a bucket truck instead of hiring somebody to do it.
Well, I think we could work an MOU
Are
with
you
the
going to ask me
town
to give that one to Kevin and say, hey, put a bucket truck capital request together?
Oh, no, we could all go, I'm sure we could have a mutually owned bucket truck.
Well, we have fire trucks that are only used for minimum amount of fire.
That's actually the
applications.
perfect question for Kevin.
And it's a
How-
platform truck that is no longer the bucket truck. It's a platform where they can go up and they could do as part of their training evolutions.
Actually, Mark, that's a good
And
idea.
we
Then we wouldn't
act-
even have to buy a bucket truck.
And we work in and we give them money for gas and do something, or
No,
basically.
because I was thinking, the way I was thinking is maybe like 6 or 7 towns get together
Yeah, but
and buy a bucket truck, and then we could just go around and I mean, because that's a piece of equipment you wouldn't use that much.
Nope.
But why would you even purchase it if we had if the fire department practiced?
You have to ask Kevin, honest to God.
I know.
He's the one with the
it's
best
two-
answer.
It's two things. We could do it with them, and you could do it with the electric company. The local electrical guy
Yeah.
has a right to work with you on that stuff, so I'm not overly concerned about it. It's something we'll work out the details later on.
So do we want to tentatively approve this with the fact
Or
that
d-
we're going
you
to
know,
follow
I-
up?
We're not going to have anything done before this budget season's
Okay.
over with, so I would recommend
All
we
those in
tentatively
favor?
approve it.
Aye.
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 Okay.
That's another one of those lost discussions that we're going to have later on.
And this is part of, these are some of the things that I think the Finance Committee is concerned about. But Skip's not here to speak to it, and I'm not going to speak for him, so.
Well, this will get sorted out. I mean, we'll just take some of these things one at a time and try to figure out how we can look at the, 5-year, 10-year out, and what are we going to do to reduce it? And this would be one of them.
And something like the discussion you just had is an option. So I have a question at this point. Do you want to take a break from the budgets and decide whether you want to go into executive session to discuss the purchase and sale?
Yeah, we should go into executive session pretty soon to get that sorted out, but the only, the ADA coordinator
You had asked for a truer
expense.
cost on the expense. I did talk to Kevin about that, but with the storms, he wasn't able to get back to me.
I thought we did Tilton Library.
You did.
Okay, so this is.
Like I said, these are things
Okay,
that,
okay, no, that's
and I'm
fine.
going to save them for some
So the
scrap
only-
paper
so
since I have
why don't
lots
we,
of notes.
The rec department's coming in next week, so why don't we put the
And the-
rec department on hold?
Okay. And like I said, they haven't confirmed it, but realistically, it says there's a typo on that. It should be just salary, but what she gives you is her narrative on activities and such.
Okay,
So,
well, that's good.
again, you
'cause I
don't
haven't-
have an
I haven't-
expense budget for her, although, like I said, I gotta stop saying that. There's a typo on the title of that budget, so,
Okay, well, I mean, I just got it tonight, so I haven't read it, so if it's all right with you, can we put it on hold until next?
Absolutely.
Okay,
and South County EMS is also in there, but it
Yeah, I
might
saw
be
that.
worthwhile, since you have it, to take it back and look at it, although
Well, that's
I know
what
I'm guessing that Mark and David have already seen it.
yeah, I didn't have a chance to look
At
at it.
least once.
That was my first shot, so.
Just in case you forgot.
No,
What's
I
that?
didn't forget. I was hoping it's tonight. I saw the snowflakes out there. I thought
They're
we were
cool
gonna.
snowflakes.
I was hoping they'd do it during the selectmen's meeting as a
All right.
backdrop to our show, so we'd have good, positive music to reinforce
I
it.
move that she's the number one wanted person here. I move that the Board of Selectmen enter into executive session as allowed by Mass General Laws, Section 30A,
Chapter 30A, Section 21.
Chapter 30A, Section
21A6.
1A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of the Oxford property, as the chair declares that an open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and
Either reconvene or adjourn.
we'll adjourn, because it's so late.
Do we have to do a
It's 9 o'clock.
budget?
You do
I
have
need
to
it.
do a roll call vote on that.
Do we have to do a warrant today?
No, you
No,
don't.
This is an off week.
Okay.
Aye.
Mark Gilmore, aye.
Dave Wolfram, aye.